not good enough. You lose a turnover battle like we did tonight. When you turn the ball over 4 times in this league, you're going to get your butts kicked, and that's what happened tonight. And just not enough winning football. I told the team before the game, Vanderbilt, that's a team you got to go beat. They're not going to give you anything, and we didn't do that tonight. Way too much self-inflicted stuff. Injury-wise, don't have an update for you on LaNorris or Kaysen, and questions.
Welcome onto the sideline, everybody. I'm Matt Dowell, joined alongside Jared Parker. It's a more somber sideline this week as we give you our instant reaction from South Carolina football. A tough night here at Williams-Brice Stadium, Jared, as South Carolina falls 31-7 to Vanderbilt. Their 16-game win streak against the Commodores is over. They were looking to go 3-0 to start the season for the first time since 2012. That is not happening. And we did have to take a minute before this podcast to kind of get our thoughts together, because there's a lot of emotions kind of all over the place from everyone, from fans, from players, from coaches. So for us as journalists, we just had to take a minute to get our thoughts together. You know, what do we want to say, to kind of do it all in, you know, a professional manner, a well thought out manner, all of that kind of stuff. So let's get into it. Let's get into what was a very, very tough day. And frankly, Jared, it was a nightmare day here at Williams-Brice Stadium for South Carolina. I don't think that is, you know, over the top to say that about tonight. I think it was truly a disaster for South Carolina, and I think even they would say that. I think this went the opposite of what they were hoping for, of what they were looking for. But I do want to start this podcast today by saying props to Vanderbilt, because they're a good team, first of all. They are a really, really good team. And also, they talked a lot of talk this past week, and really even in the preseason. They said they wanted to win this game. They were talking all week long about how much they wanted to win it. And they came in here and did that. And for me, you know, just as someone who loves sports, you talk the talk and you back it up. You deserve props for that. So props to Vanderbilt for coming in here, getting the win. They're 3-0 on the season, and they're looking to keep going. So a really good game for the Commodores. For the Gamecocks, though, it was a nightmare. And what's weird, Jared, is it started out kind of the game that we were expecting.
Yeah.
You know, Vanderbilt scores on their first drive. South Carolina comes back, gets a touchdown. Faison gets his first touchdown as a Gamecock, which is a big moment that I actually kind of feel like we're not even talking about now.
Right.
But Faison getting his first touchdown as a Gamecock, and it's 7-7. It's going great. And then the moment that I thought everything changed was when LaNorris threw that interception in the second quarter. I felt like the momentum then switched to Vanderbilt, and everything just kind of felt like it started to melt down one thing at a time. Jared gets to be on the actual sideline for these games. So before we get into the injury of LaNorris Sellers, did you feel that same thing on the sideline? Because it felt like South Carolina was in control from where I was in the press box. It felt like they were in control. They were starting to get going, and then Sellers throws that interception, and everything shifted after that.
Yeah, I definitely felt a momentum shift on the sideline, and I wouldn't even say it was so much South Carolina meltdown, more so Vanderbilt just saw the tide rising in their direction in that moment. And I think Vanderbilt pregame, I could see they were very motivated. Diego Pavia took a moment to acknowledge the fans that were jeering at him, but he didn't give too much attention. But after that interception, then coming on to that second touchdown Vandy scored, I really saw their sideline. They were just feeling it. They were hyped up. They were giving it back to the crowd. And the more things started to go in Vanderbilt's direction, the more you saw them going back at the crowd, hyping each other up on the sideline, and really feeling themselves and talking that talk.
Yeah, they were talking that talk. And again, I mean, I really just think that Vanderbilt, you know, a lot of people are going to focus on the injury of LaNorris, and I understand that. But I just really thought from the beginning of the game until the very end, I just thought Vanderbilt was the better team. I thought they were the better coach team. I thought that they out-hustled South Carolina in all areas, even when LaNorris was in the game. I just thought that Vanderbilt was the better team today. And you just kind of, I think if you're South Carolina, you got to take it on the chin and just say, you know what? We got beat today. And if you're South Carolina, it's just, okay, what do we do to not let this happen again? But obviously the big headline coming out of this game is going to be the injury to LaNorris Sellers that happened in the last 2 minutes of the first half, right towards the end. Langston Patterson for Vanderbilt had a late hit on LaNorris that ended up being targeting. Patterson was ejected from the game due to that. Jared, I was saying too, in the press box, it was hard to see that hit because from where we were, it didn't look like it was that hard. But you guys on the sideline were saying that, nah, he did get him pretty good. And that he kind of, how do you describe? He kind of went like up. Patterson kind of went up on LaNorris's helmet. Is that what happened?
Yeah, it was a kind of weird moment because usually you think of targeting as like bang bang, like straight, Ram truck colliding. It wasn't like that. It was definitely targeting, but the motion was kind of weird, and it wasn't the huge hit. You didn't hear the clack necessarily, but it definitely looked like an awkward jerk kind of motion that I don't know what the injury is, but I'm not surprised that it resulted in an injury.
What did you see from LaNorris coming when he came off the field? Because, he didn't go in the injury tent at first. He was just on the sideline. He watched the rest of the first half, went into the locker room, and we didn't see him again after that. But did you notice anything? I don't know if you did. I just am curious if you saw anything.
I thought he'd be fine, honestly. I mean, he jogged off the field. He looked fine. Like you said, he stayed on for the rest of the drive. He did leave to the locker room with about 20 seconds left, but that was after they missed the field goal. They probably weren't getting the ball, and they didn't get the ball back anyways. So up to that point, I mean, he looked kind of maybe dejected, but I feel like even that's a strong word. I didn't notice anything off about him.
Well, Shane Beamer did address the injury to LaNorris Sellers very briefly in the press conference afterwards, but he did not have an update, so we don't know what the specific injury is. We don't have an update on LaNorris' status when it comes to just his health in general and what it means for the Missouri game next week. I think the press conference was not very long with Shane Beamer. I think that everyone is very upset on the Gamecocks side of this game. And I think after they have about 48 hours to digest this and we talk to them again on Tuesday, I think that's when we'll kind of get a more in-depth questions, more in-depth answers on everything. I just think that the Gamecocks need a little bit of time to process everything that's happened here tonight. So we'll get an update on LaNorris within the next few days and see if he's ready to go for Missouri. But, if it is a concussion, if it is the head, you got to take those things really seriously. So we'll see what happens with LaNorris Sellers going forward. But it's a nightmare scenario for South Carolina's offense. I mean, he is the star of the team. He's the star of the offense. So they don't want to miss any more time with him because, Jared, we got to go into the next part of this, and that is that the offense, I'm going to say this, I don't think the offense has looked very good even with LaNorris in the game these first 2.5 games that he was in. But it didn't look good either after LaNorris was out. I don't know if that's surprising, but Luke Doty did come into the game. He is QB2 for South Carolina right now. And I got to say this, Luke Doty is such an incredible guy. He loves the Gamecocks. He loves this program. He's been in this program for 6 years now, and he will do, I think, literally anything for this team. He loves this Gamecock program so much, and he went out there, he gave it his all, he competed. It's a tough ask for someone, especially for someone like Luke, who has not played quarterback in 3-4, something like that. It's been a few years since Luke has really taken a snap as a quarterback, and I think he did the best job that he could. But I'm going to say this, Jared, and I'm going to say this I'm going to speak for myself, as always. I struggle to see why Luke Doty is the backup quarterback when you have Air Noland, you have Cutter Woods back there as well. It's nothing against Luke, because I think he's a great player and he's a great kid and he loves this team and he's loyal and all of that. It's just when you think about the future of this program, Luke is not the future, after LaNorris. When you have someone like Air, you have Cutter, I don't understand why you don't try and get them in, get them some experience, see what they can do. I'm not in practice. I don't know, I don't know what they look like in practice. So maybe there is a very valid reason for why they're not seeing the field. I just don't understand when you put Luke in, okay, you have a veteran guy, he knows what to do. See what happens. He's not doing anything. After, a while, why not put Air in? Why not put Cutter in? Why not try and see what those guys can do? And why not try and build up a legitimate QB2 for LaNorris for when these situations do happen, so that you have a younger guy that can learn from LaNorris, that can get some experience and get out there and see what they can do. I don't know. I'm a little confused by Luke being QB2 when he has not really played that position at this really in his whole collegiate career that much. I don't know if you have thoughts on that. It's just, as I'm sitting here deciphering after this game, I think that's my biggest question mark. And I don't doubt Luke is putting 100% into being QB2. I just don't know why we don't see Air or Cutter give it a shot.
Yeah, I think you'll be hard-pressed to find more people that love the Gamecocks more than Luke. But it's as you mentioned, when it comes to the case of Aaron Nolan, that's a former five-star quarterback who you got to transfer from Ohio State to come to South Carolina. You know, he's a former Buckeye. And obviously, I think Nolan knows with LaNorris here, you're not going to start over LaNorris. It's very unlikely. But past that, I don't think Air came here. I'm sure he came to compete, but I don't think Air came to be sat behind a guy who hasn't played quarterback in a couple years, especially in a game like this after multiple drives. You think maybe mix it up. So I know Shane Beamer did say before the season that Luke Doty was the quarterback too. I know we saw him against SC State. I think we were all kind of holding on to if a situation like this happened to see if that really was the case, and it happened to be the case. Which obviously prompts more questions now of what do Aaron Cutter have to do to make that step.
And I think for me, that's a question I would like to ask Shane on Tuesday for the press conference. You know, what are you seeing from Aaron Cutter? What do you need to see for them to prove that they can be that second guy after LaNorris? Because, you know, this is the second season in a row that this has happened for LaNorris, and actually in the same part of the season. Last year, third game against LSU, LaNorris got hurt, and he had to go out. He missed the whole second half. He missed the next game. They've been here before, and this is something I think that you just got to be prepared for. And again, it's just, I think that's my biggest question mark of you have these other guys that you've recruited that came in from the transfer portal. What did they need to do to be that QB2? And I know a lot of people have that same question as well, but I don't doubt that Luke Doty loves this program, that he's given it his 100%, and that he does have experience with this team, and he knows the playbook and all of that. So I think that's my biggest question mark, I think, right now. And I know the other big question mark that fans really have is when it comes to offensive play calling, and I understand the frustrations. You know, Jared, the press box, we have windows up there that are open. I can hear a lot of fans saying a lot of things. And as this game went on, they were screaming some things up into the press box area towards Mike Shula. They weren't very kind. There's a lot of frustration going on. Mike Shula obviously has so much experience. I think the biggest question, the most confusion when you watch this offense is where's the explosiveness and where are the plays that kind of made LaNorris, you know, and I think those are the things we want to see. And also, when you get down after a certain point, I think you want to see, I didn't really feel like there was a lot of making those big plays to try and get back in the game. I don't know how to explain that at 1 o'clock in the morning. Not a lot of urgency. That's a great way to explain it. I was kind of waiting for them to, all right, let's go. You know, like let's try and win this ball game. It was just kind of a weird energy throughout. And I don't know what you noticed on the sideline, but it just had a weird energy.
Yeah, it felt like at least what South Carolina has won with up to this point, it felt like Vanderbilt, and you gave credit to Vanderbilt. I have to give credit to Vanderbilt as well because it felt like they did a great job of not allowing those to be factors. Like, for example, when it comes to special teams, Vakari Swain was a non-factor tonight. When it comes to that South Carolina offense, obviously they've started slow. The few things that they've been able to have some success with, they had a first drive touchdown, but aside from that, Vandy had a very strong front seven when it came to run defense, really disrupting South Carolina. I thought the O-line actually blocked better than the past two games, but I guess you got to give credit to Vanderbilt's secondary, too, to cover long enough for the front seven to still be disruptive.
Yeah, I think Vanderbilt won the mental battle in this game big time, and I think that South Carolina really just struggled on all sides of the ball tonight. Yeah. But I think just with the offensive play calling, you know, starting back in the bowl game, back at the Cheez-It Bowl, we saw the offense stalling. We've seen the offense stall in the first two games. It's been the biggest topic, you know, regarding South Carolina football. After that Faison touchdown, I think a lot of people were like, all right, here it goes. They're going to start, you know, loosening up and opening up, and then it just stalled again. And I don't know. I don't know what the plan is, you know, with the offense, but they've got to get it together and they've got to make something happen going forward because the way the offense is right now, it's not going to be good enough to beat a lot of these teams. They have to change something going forward because even against Virginia Tech and SC State, it wasn't great even with LaNorris in, you know, so I just think that they're going to have to make some changes. They're going to have to take some hard looks in the mirror and find a way to get the offense going. And I know that we have spent how much time now talking about the offense, but I also have to say I've been really impressed with with South Carolina's defense through the first two games, especially the D-line. but I was very surprised at how much the defense struggled tonight, Jared. I don't know what it was. A lot of missed tackles, a lot of just mistakes that I just wasn't expecting. I expected them to look tighter. So I know the offense has been a big discussion today, but I was very shocked at how unprepared and kind of sloppy the defense was tonight.
Yeah, I mean, those first two drives, I think the way Vanderbilt came out in those first two drives was a huge difference maker because, I mean, they sliced through the defense that first one. South Carolina gave some pushback in that second drive, but Vandy still found the end zone. And I think that really set the tone, like, hey, even if they push back, we have an answer. We might not have an answer on first down or second down. Even not always on third down. They had to convert a fourth down attempt, but Vandy looked like if they had 4 downs of offense, they were going to figure out a way to get past that first down marker and keep marching their way down the field until it resulted in a touchdown or field goal or interception as well.
It was just one of those days where it felt like everything was going Vandy's way and nothing was going South Carolina's way. You know, every time South Carolina had a fourth down, they didn't convert it. Every time Vandy had a fourth down, they did convert it. You know, they had such a good third down rate, conversion rate. And so it was just one of those nights. And usually, you know, Jared, we do a good, bad, and the ugly after these games for our instant reaction. But I don't think we're going to do that tonight. I don't think there's a need for it. I think even Shane Beamer, you know, he said it was just bad. It just was all bad, and nobody was good enough tonight. And I just think that it was a tough day at the office for South Carolina. And I don't like doing these episodes, you know, when like everything's kind of doom and gloom and everything sucks. Everyone's pissed. Everyone's angry. Everyone's, you know, mad, whatever it is. These episodes are not fun, but these are questions that have to be asked. These are observations that I think everybody's having. And I'm interested to see how South Carolina adjust going forward, because the good news is that it's happening in week 3. Yeah. There's a lot of football to be played.
A lot better teams have lost to a lot worse teams in week 3. So.
Exactly. And so I think South Carolina is going to have to take this week to go into the other Columbia for a Missouri team that's probably looking at tonight and licking their chops, you know, to try and get a win over South Carolina next week.
And Missouri looks dangerous. I forget the exact score, but I know they had a huge win today. They had a huge win last week. Bo Prabula, their new starting quarterback, he's been killing it. So I'm like, if Diego Pavia was a problem, I don't know how Bo's going to look against this South Carolina defense, because he's another one of those dual threat quarterbacks that can really get it done. Big frame, just like LaNorris, actually.
Yeah, it's tough because, you know, football just moves so fast.
Yeah. You
don't have a lot of time to, you know, if you're South Carolina, you don't have a lot of time to just sit and be sad. You got to move on and get ready for the next, and that's just how it works. Anyway, we've been talking a lot, but let's hear from Shane Beamer, because he did address LaNorris. You know, didn't have a lot to say about that injury. We'll know more going forward, but here's what he had to say about LaNorris, about the offensive struggles, really just about everything in a night that he said was just not good enough.
Not good enough. You lose a turnover battle like we did tonight. When you turn the ball over 4 times in this league, you're going to get your butts kicked, and that's what happened tonight. And just not enough winning football. I told the team before the game, Vanderbilt, that's a team you got to go beat. They're not going to give you anything, and we didn't do that tonight. Way too much self-inflicted stuff. Injury-wise, don't have an update for you on LaNorris or Kaysen, and questions.
Shane, looking forward, you know, if you do have to be without LaNorris for some time, is it Luke's job?
No clue, David. We'll look at everything. Luke was in there tonight, and we all got to be better, and we'll evaluate everything as we go into the Missouri week. I understand the question, but way too soon for that, my man.
Shane, when LaNorris went out and the second half began, just how big of a blow was that to the team? What kind of mood did you sense from the guys coming out of the break?
It wasn't good enough. I thought, you know, obviously when you lose the leader of your football team and you lose your starting quarterback like that, and we're doing a lot of good things. I mean, I thought we did a lot of really good offensively in the first half. I think we only had 4 possessions in the first half, and 3 of them we went right down the field and moved the ball down the field, and we're in scoring territory, and then we have a turnover, we have a missed field goal, and then on the other one was just some pitiful football where I think we had a first down and it ended up like 3rd and 32. But my point being, I was pleased with a lot of the stuff we were doing offensively, and told the team at halftime that we got to go out and just continue to play good football, because we were doing a lot of really good stuff. But I don't like the way that we started the second half offensively. 3 and out. You can criticize me for not going for it on 4th down, but, you know, felt like early in the second half and punt the ball and go play defense. And I didn't like the way that we played that drive offensively, and I didn't like the way that we played that drive defensively to start the second half. And that's on me if we don't take the field with the right amount of energy to start the second half. But disappointing that we let them, after we punted it, just go right down the field and score. But I thought the team was okay. It's not good enough.
So Shane Beamer, not very happy. That was probably the fastest press conference we've had in a while with Shane. It was not very long, really only a few topics really to talk about, and he addressed them pretty quickly. But again, I think after 48, 72 hours when we get back in the press room on Tuesday, we'll have a lot more answers to some of these questions. And I think that's okay. I think it's okay to give players and coaches some time to digest. They're human. They need some time to, watch things, to process what they're feeling. They're pissed, and they got to try and control all their emotions in the press room when cameras are in their face. So I understand, if they're not just going to give away every answer or, say exactly how they're feeling right in that moment. So I think Tuesday we're going to get a lot more in-depth, a lot more reflection and all that kind of stuff with South Carolina. But I do have to say, Jared, it says a lot about Vanderbilt and where they are that we went to their press conference, because 3-4 years ago, Vanderbilt comes to town. All of us in Columbia, we're probably not setting up our tripods and our cameras in Vanderbilt's press conference room because, frankly, there probably wasn't a reason to. But now Clark Lea's done such a good job taking over this program, transforming them into being a team that now everybody's got their eyes on. You got to go to the press conference with Clark Lea. What were some of the things he had to say? Because Vanderbilt has to be thrilled tonight.
Yeah, Clark Lea was absolutely thrilled. Everyone has been talking about the streak and how daunting it is for Vanderbilt to come in with a bad streak like that. And we saw earlier in the week that the team was aware of the streak and they were talking about it. Right after the game, Lee opened up straight away saying, one, how proud of the players he is, and two, giving some love to former Vanderbilt head coach Bobby Johnson, who is a Columbia native and was the last Vanderbilt head coach to beat South Carolina. Here's what Clark Lea had to say about Bobby Johnson and this team breaking the streak.
I've got so much respect for Coach Beamer and this program, and in so many ways I think our programs mirror each other. It's they're a physical team, we're a physical team. They want to win in all three phases, we want to win in all three phases. But what was important to me talking about the history of this rivalry, this game, was the fact that the last head coach to beat South Carolina was Bobby Johnson. And obviously Bobby was my coach, and Bobby means so much to me. It means so much to our Vanderbilt family and our community. You want to talk about a first-class human being. And as a player here, I was here during a time where we didn't have a lot of success, and I think the silver lining I took was hopefully the time I invested, the work that we put in, we did to set up guys like Earl Bennett for the success he had and for the 2008 bowl game that was won. But I watched Coach Johnson and his staff work tirelessly and never once blamed the team. Always came in on Sundays, no matter how poorly we had played, with on his yellow notepad the things that we needed to do to improve. And I know I wanted Coach to be with us tonight. He wasn't able to be here. I know he and Catherine watched the game. I just want Coach Johnson to know that we love him and that he is here with us, and that performance was for him.
Well, the Commodores, I think, made a big statement here in Columbia tonight, and I think they're a team now that a lot of people they're now, the red flags are up for everybody that's about to play Vanderbilt. They're gonna really be taking the Commodores seriously, and they should. I mean, they're a really good team, and I think they've shown that in these first 3 games. I was disappointed we didn't get to talk to Diego Pavia after the game. He wasn't made available, but I just thought, with such a dynamic personality, first of all, we always want to talk to him, but because he was the one that really said that he wanted to beat South Carolina this week specifically. I would have really liked to have gotten his thoughts, but we didn't get to speak to Diego Pavia today. Vanderbilt's got to get back. They got to travel. So press moves pretty fast for the away team at any stadium. So I know that they had to, get their players, on the bus and everything and get them home. So congratulations to Vanderbilt. They played a heck of a game. I know Gamecock fans that today was really, really, really disappointed. It was really frustrating. I know you guys are feeling a lot of things. We've given our thoughts, and this is our instant reaction. So I know even us, we'll go back and we'll digest this and think about it, and have more to say in the coming few days. But for you guys, let us know what you're feeling. What are your big question marks? What are the things that you're frustrated by? What are things that you're happy with, if there are those things? What are you hoping to see, if LaNorris can't go next Saturday against Missouri? Let us know everything you're thinking, because this is an interactive podcast. We do like to know what you guys are thinking, and I like to read those comments. I like to know, like, hey, what are the fans observing? What are you guys thinking?
I responded to one because someone didn't like the Vakari Turn nickname.
They did not. I'm sorry. And I'm going to be honest, Jared. I didn't know if I liked it either. But hey, you got us started on the workshop, and that's all that matters. But anyway, now I don't even know if that's on anyone's mind at the moment after the way tonight went. But anyway, let us know what you guys thought about this game. Let us know your thoughts about South Carolina's season going forward, because it does feel like this game, Jared, kind of changed the tone of the season. All the excitement, all the hype, it really got flattened tonight, because this game was not close. I mean, it was not close. So I think that kind of the perspective on the season maybe has changed now. I think maybe expectations have changed now, and now maybe it's back to South Carolina's maybe got to prove themselves again and show the country what they're really made of this season, because tonight was a statement, but in the worst way for South Carolina.
Yeah, I think, like you said, they have to prove themselves again, but we've said it on this podcast a bunch. They've got to have a short memory because, as you said, football moves quickly. You've got a big opponent in Missouri next week, and that is an immediate chance to march into enemy territory on the road in SEC country and prove yourselves with the big SEC win. So, I mean, it's another week in the SEC. You're never going to have an easy win in this conference, and I think tonight really showed that.
Absolutely. The status of LaNorris Sellers is going to be the big topic going forward. We got some sprinklers raining down on us behind us. Yeah, it's getting misty over here. Yeah. We were like, what's going on? But the status of LaNorris Sellers is going to be the big question going into this week. So obviously everyone's going to be focusing on that, and we'll see what South Carolina can do against Missouri on Saturday. A lot's going to happen in the next few days. We'll keep our eyes peeled on all of the big news. But he's Jared Parker. I'm Matt Dowell. South Carolina, Missouri kickoff at 7 o'clock Eastern time next Saturday, 6 o'clock Central time if you're going to the other Columbia for this game. But should be another good one, and we'll see what adjustments South Carolina makes going into next week. Again, he's Jared. I'm Matt. We'll see you next time here on South Carolina Sideline. I should say as well, we do have our next interview set up. Parker White, the legendary kicker from Gamecock football, going to chat with me about his life as a Gamecock, his NFL career, and also what he's doing at Ridgeview High School here in Columbia, because he is an assistant coach for the Blazers, who are good, by the way. They're really good. So anyway, that interview is going to be dropped on Tuesday. You guys can watch that right here and listen to it right here on South Carolina Sideline. Excited to talk to Parker White and get an update on how his life is going. All right, I've closed this podcast out like 4 times by now. He's Jared. I'm Matt. We'll see you next time here on South Carolina Sideline.